Hello everyone, this is Cosmic Kitsuname, and today I'm going to be talking about one of my favorite animes, Wolf's Rain, and the duality of the characters Quent and Darica. Spoilers up ahead. I strongly advise anyone that's never heard of it or watched the show to check it out. It is a really good anime, and one that I sometimes look back on and analyze the significance or symbolism of the flower and what it was all about. And the reason I decided to talk about Quent and Darica is because there was a lot that these two had in common, despite being very different characters, and they represented two halves of the same coin. It represented essentially the common man. And maybe in a later video I'll talk about the four main characters. But one of the things that stuck out to me when I was watching the anime is how well the facial expressions were done, how well they were able to emote, and how you were able to see the gravity of such situations based on every mistake and everything that happened. To start off with Quent. Quent is no different from your average guy. Prior, when you see this guy, you get the image that, okay, this town has a lot of bad people in it. A lot of stuff goes down in this town. And this doesn't become more apparent until later in the series that most of the people that live in such places, they value their comfort and their safety so much to the point where they don't even question authority. And this is one of the main themes of the anime, to have adversity, to overcome, to find some form of actual comfort or closure with one's own life, to be able to stop running for a moment, to enjoy the journey and not so much the destination, because every character has their own version of what paradise is, and whether they achieved it or not is really what they got out of it. And the same for the viewer. What you get out of it is what you get out of it. And with Quent, when you see this character, it's very easy to write him off as some type of cold-hearted, drunk, senile cynic. But when you start to learn more about his backstory, you start to figure out why he's that way. He lived a relatively normal life in some very rural place where it's just his house, his wife, and his kid. And one day he leaves, he comes back, and he sees everything destroyed. His family is gone. He sees these wolves, and at that point he decided to dedicate his life to hunting every last one of them down. And even though in the show there is a very few number of them, he is still determined to hunt every last one of them down. And since other people can't see them because they're hidden so well, he comes off as crazy for even wanting to undertake this task, because most people believe they were all exterminated a long time ago or died out. And this is what drives him. Later in the story, it is proven or stated that that was not the case. And at that point, he was somewhat too far gone because that became part of his character. Granted, he did learn to mellow out and come to accept certain things, but that would have taken more time than what was given in the show. So he started to come around. So there was actual hope up until the point where he perishes. And the thing one should take from this is the fact that, yes, he was angry that his family was annihilated, but he was also angry to the fact that he was robbed of the opportunity to be with his family, let alone protect his family, is such a thing. So now he feels like he's failed in every aspect of life. The one job that he took great pride in, despite everything else, caring for and loving his family. And you see this type of pain with every scene he's in. Even when he's showing some form of empathy towards others, be it a young boy he just met or a kid or someone in need, he still has that capacity to care. And it's in his final moments that you are able to see this. And so he's no longer in that exact frame of mind because he's learning to accept things. Before, he was very quick to anger. Because when you're on edge all the time and you're aware of what you can lose and how you can lose it within just a blink of an eye, it can make a person like that. It can make you so worried about every action that you take. People who value their family above all else have that mentality, for better or worse. And when I talk about Darcy in a moment, I'll go a little further into that. But back to Quent here. He had lost almost everything, but he still had Blue. And even though Blue was a half wolf or whatever, that was the very thing that he had to remember his family. Even if it's for a very negative reason. So you're using this thing to hunt down wolves. You see? The very thing he hated become the very thing that he leaned on, not just emotionally, but physically as well. And so, in that moment, he couldn't see any type of paradise ever present itself before him. So the world is hell. And when he's talking to anyone, any other characters, he is very fixated on this because his need to provide is an overdrive. Okay, I couldn't protect my family, but I'm going to take out the rest of these terrible things so I can provide some level of comfort for myself and maybe the world. None of that is going to bring him any true level of peace, but that is how that's rationalized. And there are many men who have this need to think beyond themselves, even if it's for revenge. That type of thing, in regards to providing and protecting, is hardwired and part of core nature. You see this in movies, you see this in anime, where the self-sacrificing character just jumps up and they're just ready to do whatever is within their means to protect everybody around them. Even when it's just them, you still see that, even in real life. If the guy is off by himself, there's that need to provide, protect, even if it's for oneself. And that's typically not something that one would see as a cynical act, but it's just life. And this clip shows the totality of living by one's own values, because be they good or bad, it's one thing to have flexible morals but never have flexible values, because you'll always regret that. And this is why, to this day, one of my pet peeves is insecurity, because insecurity is the gateway to many terrible things, and left unchecked, it can turn into the most bitter of things. People look at insecurity as if it's this personality trait. It isn't. Everyone has things that they fear or things that they're unsure about or insecure about. It becomes another thing when somebody is living through their rage or living to some type of innate insecurity. Because for him, he would not allow himself to even contemplate the thought of letting his hatred go for the wolves until around the bitter end. So his obsession killed him. You know, it's always good to be able to dream, but you have to live in the reality of your situation as well. You have to have a healthy balance between those two things, or it can lead you down a very dark path. Here's the clip.
The scents are coming back. Cops! Oh no! He's alive. You'll catch your death of cold if you fall asleep out here.
Lay off, will you?
You're not one of the locals, are you? So where are you from, old man?
Just what the hell difference does it make to you?
Not much. Just making conversation.
From Curios.
Ah.
You mean you know it?
No. But from what I understand, the place was wiped out by Jagara's troops ages ago. They torched the town looking for wolves.
That's a lie! Don't you give me that crap!
Sorry, but it's true. I heard it from some soldiers. They were hunting a pack of wolves that just happened to pick Curios as the hideout. So they burned it.
I don't believe that for a second. No! I saw them with my own two eyes. It was wolves! They killed him! They killed Roos!
The wolves didn't kill him! You've got to believe me. Please, Pops.
Oh my God, Blue!
Everybody has moments in their life where they're uncertain, or they hate the thought or idea of something ever happening to them or somebody they care about, so they block it out. And rightfully so in many cases. Because when it comes to the character Darica, he had lost any type of future he could ever possibly have, and one could argue more than anyone else. He never had kids, but he had everything that the common man could ever want, and he was content. He was content because all he ever cared about was his wife. And when you also see this character, his arc is mostly there. I mean, you already know more or less what he's about upon the second or third time you see him. It took a while to pick up on Quent, but Darica, he has everything he could ever want. So you'd start to think, okay, what is his role in all this? And he was also a victim of circumstance. You see, there are things that just happen, and you have no control over that. And so you have to try to accept them on some level, or else it'll just consume you. What made it worse for Darica is the fact that, unlike Quent, he was there. He had to witness the whole thing in its entirety. And there's one thing to feel powerless, it's another thing to know and be powerless. So even with all of that, he goes on some last-ditch effort to try to save the woman he cares about. And it doesn't go down that way. And one of the things that, or scenes that go over people's heads, is the part where he's coming to terms with what has happened, and his mind will not accept this. He's not going to accept this type of reality, because when you spend your whole life constantly contributing to something and you bank your entire existence on it, the thought of failure isn't an option. And I'll show you that clip in just a moment. But you see flashbacks of him being younger, and it seems like time had stopped, or time would go on forever that way. And so he kidnaps Cheza and brings her there. And when he finally comes to the realization that it is what it is, he also goes on this mission to protect paradise. So now he's no longer providing, but he's protecting. He feels like he has to protect this. And something happens when a man loses everything. Some part in them shuts off, and the gear just starts to either stop completely or go rapidly. I mean, so the world is rapidly ending, when this dude is doing all of this, but once again protect paradise. He was offered a false paradise by Lady Jagada, which is the twin sister of Amina, woman he loved, and he outright rejects this idea. He wouldn't have accepted that, because the heart wants what the heart wants. You can't will somebody to like something that they're never gonna like. And she may have been her twin, but she had none of the qualities. And it's in this moments like this to where you can see Darica truly loved the woman he was with. When you care about someone to that degree, you want the best for them, even if you're not in the picture, even if it shaves years off your life, even if it might possibly split the world in half, because that is how powerful that is. It is deeper than anybody would ever really give it credit for, because we don't think about things like this. Most people do not think about this until they are met with the uncomfortable decision of what to do and what not to do, or what you won't do. And as the old saying goes, the only thing more dangerous than a man with nothing to lose is a man with everything to lose. Hell, there are some people that go their entire lives without even knowing what they can lose until they either lose it or the possibility of them losing it becomes apparent. You don't appreciate sometimes what you have until it's gone. And the interesting part about a lot of this is that there are near limitless options until somebody is backed into a corner or they've been backed into a corner. People can call it fate, they can call it destiny, but if you're looking at it from a more logical point of view, there are people that are victims of circumstance. Quent was a victim of circumstance because they weren't even directly targeting him or looking for him. It just happened to be a place where wolves were hiding, of the general area. Darica's curse or burden, something happened long before him. These are things that neither one of them had any type of control over. But they did what they felt is best. They lived and died on what they valued. And that's what it truly means to live. Time is something that we will never have any true control over. You can control what you do with your time, but time waits for no one. And this is why such a thing should be valued. Value your time even when you're wasting it. That's something that I have said quite a bit, and something I try to live by. When you have no type of support system or guidance, you are going to make mistakes. And I'm sure at some point both Darica and Quent had that, but lost it along the way. And so when you reach that state, you can only do what you've either been taught or what's well within your power to do so, for better or worse. Because there's also another factor that isn't looked at as much, because typically when anime is played, you'll see a good guy and a bad guy, and that'll just be the end of it. But if the story was told by any other perspective, it could easily be switched. And Darcy is represented in the end as the human need or evil that plagues the world, or just in general, just an evil. When, to varying degrees, everyone in the show was selfish in their own way. It is not bad to have one's dreams and desires, or even to show empathy or to love, but you have to, like with anything, gain some sense of control over that and accept and live in the situation that you're in, regardless of whether it was by your hand or someone else's. You make the best decisions that you can. You grieve and mourn your losses. Sometimes you have to cut your losses, and that could be a very difficult thing to do as well, especially when the pursuit of paradise is seemingly well within your grasp. You end up rejecting the notion either out of insecurity or because you know that it's a false paradise. Kiba had to be pulled out of a false paradise as well in the story, because he was just about to accept his fate or become complacent, and had he done that, he'd have died, because it wasn't his time yet, and he was in a place that looked a lot like paradise, but it wasn't his paradise. He was where he ought not, should have been, as the saying goes. And this is why you have to always know where you stand. So, in that sense, they are able to relate. And that's what makes the characters so well written, and in some instances relatable, because they come to conclusions on their own. They double down on what they believe in, and even if a spark of hope is there, they change their mind. They know not to rewrite the past, so they know that they can't, so they keep pushing forward. And that's what you should do, because life is a battle. You come into the world fighting to breathe, and you leave this world with faculties shutting down, assuming you're lucky. When a person is old and they start to have such issues, there is a greater level of acceptance. But the younger someone is, the worse it is, because of the impact. Losing an arm and losing a leg are not the same thing, but it's painful. And you can't live without your brain or your heart, but they're not the same thing. There are different types and degrees of pain and loss, and there's different ways to cope as well. But that's something a person chooses, and it takes time. Failure to reach this conclusion, you end up in a false paradise or hell, depending on what you took from it. There is no such thing as a painless lesson in life, be it physical or metaphorical. you learn what you learn, you experience what you experience. And it's being able to analyze what you can to help you move forward and navigate as best you can. So the idea should be to push forward. You're gonna perish, but at the very least perish on your own terms. And I'd like to leave the viewers with this. No matter where you ended up or end up, be it heaven, hell, or if you're really unlucky, somewhere in between, one of the most painful things a person can go through is having every conversation or every instant be a potential permanent goodbye. It's a lot like a poison. Same type of poison that Darica infected Darica with after she was impaled. You pick your poison in life, whether you take it by choice or by accident. You cleanse yourself or continue doing what you're doing to reach your own destination. Whether you gain an immunity from that or not, that's left up to fate or chance. But this is why it helps to have things explained, be it by nature or by others. It is that understanding and being able to contextualize what has happened, what is happening, and what will happen. And that is how we learn and grow and overcome. So you push forward. You do or die. You live. So anyway, I'd like to thank everyone that's watched my video and leave you with this final clip. Thank you and peace.
Paradise I attempt to open as a noble would pale in comparison. When I saw Jagara's paradise with my wolf's eye, I understood. It was nothing but an illusion. Hamana is not there. No, the Hamana I once loved no longer exists. I was able to revive the hidden wolf within me by using this stone. In this world, there are wolves, and there are creatures that were created from them. Not all humans were born from the wolf. There are also those who began their existence as wolves, but they abandoned their true form and embraced the guise of humanity. None of them are aware of this. They have forgotten what they once were and can never change back.
And you're telling me that you actually remembered?
A simple notion occurred to me. Everything that's happened was preparing the path to guide you here.
What?
Why do you think your clan died out, leaving you as the sole survivor? You never had a pack. You have always been the uniquely created wolf.
That's a load of crap and you know it!
You were all that was ever needed to open paradise. Those mongrels you dragged with you weren't necessary.
It's true that I was alone. I was always on my own. But if I'd stayed that way, the only thing I could open would be a world that was meaningless to me. That kind of paradise is nothing.
You've lost everything that was precious to you.
I haven't lost anything. Not my friends, or my pride as a wolf. Nothing!